Hello and welcome to yet another video on TechnoFunda Investing YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about a very hot topic which is going on around API. We have seen that in last few days or probably last 2 months actually, there has been a lot of movement in terms of API companies and overall pharma sector as a whole. So today what we are going to do in this session is dissect this API sector for people who don't know much about pharma and they want to know how to exactly understand and dissect the entire situation, where to get the data from, and which companies will get benefited due to these changes which are happening in this particular sector. Right, so that is the broad agenda. Let me just share my screen and we will start with the presentation. And along the presentation, what I'll do is I'll also share some of the underlying data points which you should consider in terms of analyzing this sector further. Right, so let's get started with the presentation. This is basically on understanding API. Let's make sense of this and try to delve deeper. What we are going to study over here in this particular video is these 5 points. First, we'll understand what is API for people who don't know what is API at all. Second, we will understand the building blocks. What is the overall building blocks in terms of this industry? What is changing here? What are the dynamics that is affecting this entire sector? And how Indian companies will benefit out of it. And then finally, we'll touch upon some of the key players that will have impact due to the entire scenario which is playing out, right? And I also did a video on how to basically do a sector analysis, and there I discuss about how to track these kind of changes. If you are interested, I've just put in a link below this video as well, if you want to just go through that video for overall sector analysis, right? So that is the same blueprint which I'm following here in this particular analysis as well. Okay, so let's start with what is API, right? So API in a very simple full form known as active pharmaceutical ingredients, right? Now, what are active ingredients? So active pharmaceutical ingredient is basically the basic drug which is actually curing our disease, but you cannot take it just raw form of these APIs, right? Most of the APIs needs to be taken in the form of formulations, right? So formulation is nothing but tablet or syrup which you are eating or drinking. That is the end form of drug which we finally consume, right? So if you look at this particular diagram, you have first on the top formulations, and then this is basically formed by two components. One is API, which is active ingredient, and this is the basic drug which we require. This is active form of drug which basically changes something in our body, and that's the reason why we get cured. And the second part is known as excipients, right? Excipients are nothing but which will make this entire material stable in the formulations, right? So think of it as an inactive substance, right, which is either in the form of powder which ultimately forms a tablet, or it could be a liquid solution which holds API and doesn't react with API, so that it doesn't cause any trouble, right? So it's basically just to dilute the API in the end form which we require to consume, which is formulation, right? And alongside there might be some binding or stabilizing materials used to prepare these formulations, right? So, but for the context of understanding, we don't need to get deeper into it right now. Just understand that there are just two components of the end formulations which we take as a tablet or a syrup or a liquid form, right? So it could be any final end product which we are consuming, that is formulation, and API and excipients are their components, right? So let's see that in the diagram format, right? So this is what I was talking about. So formulation will have a API within it, and to have this API consumed in a proper format, you will have inactive ingredients which are mixed along with it, which are known as excipients. And these are different forms, tablets, capsules, injections, liquid syrup. It could be all various kind of things which you see in the normal parlance when we are consuming that final product as a medicine, right? So that is a formulation. Now, there is a special term known as ANDA, right? So when you are studying any formulation, you need to be aware about this term. If you don't know already, it's fine. Even few years back, I also didn't knew about it. We can learn and go forward, right? And that's the reason I'm doing this video, to simplify this for you so that you can easily dissect this entire sector and make sense of it. Every company who wants to sell their formulations in the market, they need to file ANDA, right? Which is known as abbreviated new drug application. That's what I've also written on the head of the slide as well. And there is a database on US FDA site where you can actually find, all the ANDAs which are filed for selling these formulations, which date, what component, all those things are basically available. And this is known as Orange Book. I don't know why they have termed it Orange Book. If you know, you can just write in the comment in this YouTube video. But it's known as Orange Book, right? And now what I'll do is I'll show you exactly how to search these ANDAs, and I've provided this link on the slide as well. I'll also put in the comment description just below this video as well, so that if you want to bookmark this and you want to use this for further research, you can do that, right? So let me just stop sharing this, and let me go to the Excel. Okay, so let's now see how to basically look for any kind of ANDA filing, and what kind of ingredient it has and what is the formulation, right? So there are two links which I have shared. One is this link, which is a link to Orange Book, and then this is the link where you can actually find the list of all the drugs by a particular alphabetical letter, or you can even search over here. So for the ease of searching, I'll just pick up a simple drug which is known as ibuprofen, right? You might have heard about it, right? So I just clicked on I on this link, and this link I've shared below. So nothing to worry. You can just start doing it yourself, or you can do side by side, right? So ibuprofen, you click on this and you will find all the kind of variants which are there, right? And their ANDA filing numbers and all those things, what format they are taken and all that. The Orange Book is much friendly if you just copy this. So ibuprofen, and let's search here, right? So once you search over here, you will see the same thing in a proper tabular format, right? So you see what is the active ingredient, what is the proprietary name of that formulation, what is the application number and how it is taken, what is the format, who is the application holder. You get all these details which you require for further analysis, right? And if you click on it, you will find further documentation and all that, right? All of the details you can find. So I would suggest you just explore this much deeper. I've given you the links, I have shown you the path how to do it. You can just explore this further, right? So this is how you can basically search for a particular formulation, how it is placed, what are the different companies that is making this formulation, when they filed ANDA application and all that, right? You see all these pharma companies, the names over here, right? And what format they are taken and all that. So this is how basically you can find the ANDA status. Now, next, what we can do is, uh, these are based on formulation, right? But we need information regarding APIs, which are the active ingredients that go into it, and who is manufacturing those APIs, right? Now, in ANDA specifically, it's very difficult to find out the suppliers who is making it, but there is a way to find it, right? So that is basically in terms of DMF, which is known as drug master files. Now, this is the definition and description from the US FDA website itself, and all these data is also available on FDA site, and I'll show you just after this, right? So these are the master files, which are kind of submissions to FDA used to provide some confidential and detailed information about facilities, process, or articles used in the manufacturing. So this is very critical, right? So basically, if there is any API which is going into that formulation, they will need to give information about those APIs, and that is how you can trace who is making those APIs and all those stuff, right? So that allows the parties to reference material without disclosing DMF contents to those parties, and these are not required by statute or regulation and are neither approved or disapproved, right? So instead, FDA will just review the technical contents of these DMFs in connection with the review of applications that are referenced to them, right? So the ANDAs which are referenced, they will just see this alongside ANDAs, but these are just information which is getting provided to uh, take a better decision for FDAs, right? So DMF data is basically available in the link below, which I've shared here, and I'll also show you where to get it, right? So let's share that thing on the website where it is available, and I'll again put this link as well so that you can reach out, right? So this is the link of FDA where you find drug master files, which is known as DMFs, right? And this is basically updated quarterly, right? And you will find the XLS over here. And for ease of our analysis, what I've done is I've just downloaded this Excel to show you how to use it, right? So once you download this Excel, just select this second row, put a filter like this, and on the holder, right, you can see all the DMF's information based on subject which is there, uh, and you can just filter it very easily. Let me show you some example. Let's take granules, right? So if I just type granules and press OK, I'll find all the DMFs starting since say 2005, 95, all kind of years. Whenever they have filed these DMFs, you can see this, right? Same way, if I find some other company, say I clear this, and let's find something on Alembic, just for example. Okay, so I can just find Alembic, and I know that these are Alembic Limited, these are Alembic API division, and this way I can also see what are the common drugs between the API and Alembic Limited. So you are likely to find some information on ANDA after researching this, right? So this is how this DMF file is useful, and you can search all sort of companies, right? Let's take one more. Let's take Cipla, right? So you can find Cipla and then just filter it, and you find all the filings of Cipla till date, right? So that way it will give you an idea how it is doing, what it is doing. And same way, it also gives the idea around the competition. So here also you can get an idea in ANDA also, what kind of competition is there, what all players are there. The lower number of players, the lower the competition, right? So that ways it will give you a good idea. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation and try to understand what has changed, right? So in terms of the sector dynamics, what has changed currently? Once we do this DMF, as I said, you can get idea about the competition. You can get the idea of the names of the companies. You can also look for patents on APIs producing methods, right? So even though the API ingredient might be same, but different players takes patents on the methods in which they are producing this, right? So if they have a specific patent for that particular API, that's even better. right? So you can just Google and see if they have any patent around any kind of APIs, right? Now, what happened and what's changing? This is very, very important for us to understand as an investor. What happened earlier was India was earlier dominant in API market overall in terms of production, but slowly it lost market to China because they started producing it at very, very low cost. And I think the differential was somewhere around 30-40% vaguely. I don't exactly remember the difference, but it was somewhere around 30 to 40% cheaper than what we used to produce in India. And now what has happened is, because of this scenario, India is now a major importer of APIs from China. I think 60 to 70% roughly of our API requirement is coming from China, right? And now because of this, we have now major reliance on China for getting this API. And I'll share the links and documentation just right in a minute. Now, what's changing is, because of this COVID and also earlier, government agencies were deliberating that we should reduce the reliance of APIs, because these are some of them are like very critical drugs which we require in terms of any critical situations which happens in the country. And because of COVID, not only India but across the world, because a lot of countries were dependent on China and there was no supply of these APIs in proper format. There was shortage and there was a lot of fluctuation in terms of price, and getting this drugs were also very, very difficult. So because of that, now a lot of countries thought that we need a mechanism to at least diversify from the dependence on China, right? Because these are critical drugs. Now that led to two things after this situation. One, countries started deliberating that we should have a localization of manufacturing, so that if there is any such situation arising in future, we can source this material locally and we don't need to rely on other countries. And second is, which is very, very important for India, is that a lot of companies who were making formulation, they started adopting a strategy of dual sourcing. So if they had reliance on only Chinese companies, now they thought that we need to source it from an alternate country also. They can continue taking from China also, but some part of it they will basically source it from some other country, right? And that is where Indian manufacturers are to gain. One, because the local government, Indian government, has also thought that we'll accelerate the production and do some more local manufacturing. And because of this dual sourcing strategy by certain other companies outside India, we are going to benefit, right? So these are the two major triggers that has happened after this COVID situation. I would say there were deliberation, but it kind of accelerated, and now governments got a very good reason to implement this, a strong reason to implement this, right? So now I'll show you some of the documents on a government website which will give you an idea about what we just spoke on this slide around what is changing, right? So let me just pull up some of the PIB documents, right, which is released by government, and see what is the overall scenario, right? So let's jump into it. So this is as of 17th March 2020, very recently published by PIB. And this talks about what is the situation in terms of imports. And as I said, almost 60 to 70%, so exactly 68% of your API imports were just from China, right? So almost 68% in 2018-19 we imported from China, which suggests that there is a very high reliance of APIs coming from China. Now, this is the historical data, and you see that the kind of imports are just increasing year on year, right? From 17, it was like 5,591. Now it's almost 11,230 metric tons, right? And this is the kind of raw materials that are getting imported. So what happened is, Department of Pharmaceuticals constituted a committee under chairmanship of this person, and they, came out with some recommendation. Now this committee recommended that, we need some drugs and APIs which are, manufactured here, and we need some push to manufacture these bulk drugs, right? And that triggered change in terms of policy. So on 21st March, almost 4 days after this document was released, you had a cabinet approval which approved the promotion of domestic manufacturing of these critical key starting materials or drug intermediaries and APIs, right? So intermediaries are also, just in the process of API, you get these intermediates getting produced, right? So they approved this entire promotion of domestic manufacturing, which I talked about, right? That there was a lot of localization a process that got triggered because of this, and exactly that happened in India as well, right? So what are the details, right? So first, promotion of bulk drug parks, right? So there is decision to develop 3 mega bulk drug parks in India with partnership along with the other states. We government also is giving granted aid to states up to limit of 1,000 crores per drug park, right? So we are basically pushing to create this bulk drug parks to manufacture APIs and intermediates, and they will also have common facilities such as solvent recovery plants, distillation plants, all those basically ancillary things which you require. It's a common infrastructure so that individual companies don't need to put money to, do all these things. They can just pay some small fees and it's all taken care, right? And also there is a sum of 3,000 crores which has been approved for this scheme for next 5 years. This is on the bulk drug parks. Also there is this production linked incentive scheme which has, been started, which gives financial incentive to eligible manufacturers of 53 critical bulk drugs, right? So there are 53 such critical bulk drugs or APIs and intermediaries which are identified, which will get financial incentive based on their eligibility, right? Now this is for next 6 years, and they will see the incremental sales. If they are able to increase the sales, they will give more incentives. Now, out of these 53 bulk drugs which are identified, 26 are fermentation based drugs and 27 are chemical synthesis. So fermentation is like how we ferment our breads, right? So same way, they ferment these bulk drugs, and chemical synthesis is by combination of different chemicals out of which these are produced, right? So there are like 26 in fermentation side and 27 on chemical side which are identified. Now, what is the rate of incentive? That is 20% of incremental sale value, right? So 20% of incremental for fermentation based bulk drugs, they will incentivize, and 10% is for incremental sales for chemical synthesis based bulk drugs. And for next 8 years, a sum of 6,940 crores have been approved, right? So this will give a great push to this entire industry, and specifically for these 53 drugs which are identified and companies which are producing these drugs, right? So that is what will impact. Now, like all other infra projects and all other different government schemes, the actual outcome will totally depend upon the execution and how well the scheme is run. But in principle, to start with, this looks like a very promising push to the industry. Okay. So let's now look into what are the kind of 53 drugs which are there, which will get impacted, and what are the companies which produce these drugs out of these 53 drugs. And other things which are going to get impacted due to this, right? So let me again share my presentation, right? And let's see what are the impact, right? So now I'll show you the list of 53 drugs, and which companies to majorly benefit is this. So Orbindo 21 APIs, which out of 53. Sun Pharma, they are having 14 out of 53. Lupin 12, DRL 10, Cipla 10, Divi's 9, Glenmark 3, and Biocon 2. So there is entire list. There might be overlapping APIs. So each APIs might be, for each bulk drug, there might be multiple companies which are manufacturing the APIs, but these are the major companies which will directly get benefited, right? Because of this, there might be a lot of indirect benefit to other companies which are supplying ingredients, intermediates to all these companies. But this is like the direct impact in terms of this list of 53 drugs which we saw. Right. So let me now pull up the Excel, which has the list, and I'll also share this Excel in the link below so that if you want, you can download this list. It will be available to you. Right. So let me now share this list. So this is the list of all these 53 drugs which has been approved by government. Right. So I've just listed it down. I'll share this link. I'll upload this on Google, uh, and I'll share the link for this as well. Okay. And now let's come back to the impact overall. So now the thought process as an investor should run like this, right? If I am a long-term investor, I need to segregate whether this is a temporary phenomena or this is a structural phenomena, right? If it is a temporary short-term phenomena, this will go away, and prices will start falling, the business performance will start deteriorating. But if it is a structural thing which is happening, and like chemical sector, if there is really the transition from China to India that is happening, and Indian companies are getting benefited for very long period of time, then this could be game changer for the sector, right? But it is very difficult to tell that at this moment because there are certain factors which are involved, right? First basically is execution, right? So execution is key over here. If we execute it properly, companies take benefit out of the government scheme, and government is also serious, and we see the stability in terms of execution of this policy, it will be really game changer. Now, at the starting or look of it definitely looks similar to the chemical story on how it started, right? So chemical story also, there was some explosion in China, and there was environmental concerns. A lot of end consumer companies thought of dual sourcing, and that is where the Indian chemical companies got benefited. One, because we got some local manufacturing. Second, because a lot of companies got closed down in China, and now some of these companies are very, very competitive, and we can see the structural change that is happening. But it will obviously unfold over a period of time. And how you should do is, at least from my perspective, I believe in tracking the price volume action along with the fundamentals, right? So if the fundamentals are also improving, and my price volume action or technical analysis is also supporting that fundamental thesis, then we can think of this as a structural change, and accordingly uh, place our investing ideas around it, right? So let's see how it pans out. But initial thoughts, it is similar to chemical story. We need to see the execution, and we need to also track price volume action, right? And if you want to know more about how I actually track these price volume action and how I blend technicals with fundamentals, you can enroll to my next webinar. You can just type technofunda.co/webinar, and it will take you to the registration page. So you can just see my webinar if you are really interested in terms of how to analyze these kind of situation, and form a long-term conviction for your investing process. Okay, so that is it from my end. Thank you very much for watching. These are some of the references which I've taken to create this presentation. And this is a quick disclaimer. Please do your own due diligence. All the stocks which I've mentioned, it's just for information purpose to give you an idea about what is happening. And none of them should be considered as a stock recommendation, or neither you should take a buy or sell decision just based on this particular presentation. And please do your own research, consult your investment advisor if needed, and I'm not liable for any claims. Right, with that, I'll end this session for you. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.